Hello, hello, hello. Like there were a couple people already waiting, so I kicked off a few minutes early. I'll sit here and chat for a few moments while other people get on. Thank you very much for those of you that are already in the lobby. I certainly appreciate you tuning in here this evening. Maybe the daylight savings time might have got some people. Man, it gets dark so quick now. It's crazy. I think it was like 5:30 and it was already dark and feels like midnight. So, uh, not sure why daylight savings time is still a thing, but hopefully it doesn't screw up too many people trying to chime in an hour ago. But, good evening. Thanks, Jim. Certainly appreciate you chiming in. And hopefully you enjoy tonight's broadcast. And hopefully I can provide some sort of information and entertainment and answer some questions to all of you who took some time out of your evening, Sunday evening, to join in and watch me ramble for the next, as long as I'm here. Oh, hey, Jeremy, I just saw you at the top. Sorry about that. Thank you very much for chiming in. Still got a couple more minutes till we officially start. So looks like we're going to avoid any problems today like we had last time. That was super bizarre, but have not seen that kick in since. And hopefully we will be problem free for the remainder of the evening. Got a lot of good stuff to cover tonight over the past couple weeks. Hi, Sandy. You're very welcome, and I appreciate you supporting Tug both on social media and tuning into our videos. So I'm happy to give back to those who do that. Certainly, we like to keep our best people around and reward them for giving back to the community because that is what Tug is all about. And always happy to give out free memberships. One of our topics today is for the 30th birthday. I still got 4 or 5 of those to give away. Probably do some of those this evening. Maybe we'll do like a best question or have you guys vote depending on who's online and to give away. But I know the 30 for 30 stuff ended last month, but I saved 4 or 5 just for some special ones to give out to over the next week or so, especially. Thank you, Sabri. If I mispronounced your name, I apologize. But thank you so much for chiming in, and I appreciate you taking some time out of your evening to come join me and watch, listen to me talk about a few topics, and hopefully answer some of your questions. Happy to do this. I really do enjoy it. For one thing I can talk about for pretty much endless amount of time is time sharing. And I spend a lot of time on the phone talking to people, spend a lot of time on Zoom talking to people, spend a lot of time answering emails on an almost daily basis. And it's truly become something I absolutely love to do because I genuinely feel that the information, the questions that I can answer for people, just like the people that come to the Tug website or the Tug forums to get help and advice, it truly does help them because there are so many places you can go to get terrible information on timesharing, if not outright fraudulent information on timesharing. So the people that we do help, we they're certainly very grateful to get the truth, even though many times it's difficult, if not ugly to hear. A lot of people don't like to believe some of the stuff they learn about the timesharing industry. It's not all sunshine and roses as it's made out to be, but again, I believe that is the mission of everyone on Tug is to give people the truth, even if that truth is not pleasant. Timon, thank you for joining in. Again, if I mispronounce your name, I apologize. So thank you very much for sharing your time, share wisdom. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'm always happy to give information freely to people in need. And I enjoy that people are still willing to tune in to get that information, ask questions, learn about Tug, find Tug, share Tug on the internet. Again, I 100%, even when my father started, that there are more people that find Tug from other timeshare owners than do from anything Google searching and such like that. I can't tell you how many people join Tug and put something in the referral field. So many people, and it means more. If you meet someone at a timeshare, or you're someone on Facebook, another timeshare owner or something, the referral from another timeshare owner to a site for timeshare owners is worth more than anything we could pay for in terms of advertising. So again, I cannot express enough how much I appreciate those of you who do that. And so I try to reward that as I find it. Obviously, there's no way to count all of that. I just don't have my fingers in the internet in every place like that. But when I do see it, I try to reward it. For those of you who do get referrals, you do get membership extensions for that. And technically, as we've always said, if you write enough reviews and you refer enough people, you'll never have to pay for Tug again. I'm happy to give you free membership for the rest of your natural life, provided you keep telling people about Tug and writing reviews. Because if you build the community and you help the community out, you shouldn't have to pay to be a part of the community, as you are a part of the community. And I will continue that as an option on Tug as long as I'm around. So Thank you again so much for people that do share Tug on social media. Now we're at 8:32, and we'll go ahead and get started. Again, for those of you who just chiming in, thank you so much for joining us for our what are we? November. Ah, man, October went by so quick. Tug's birthday, my birthday. So happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to Tug. We're celebrating 30 years. 30 years. It's still absolutely mind blowing to me that I don't like to toot my dad's horn, and he was a very humble guy and didn't like to do it either. But to have just so few websites can say that they're 30 years old. To think back in 1993, I was personally graduating high school and starting college at Florida State. I was actually a computer science major. And I don't know for any of y'all who remember computers in 1993, but as far as I was there, Windows didn't really exist for us. We had Sun workstations in the computer lab at Florida State. Google didn't exist. I want to say it was Yahoo was really the only search engine, and even that was archaic at best. Obviously, it looked very similar with a search bar, but just not a whole lot out there. You couldn't realistically go and type in, Marriott timeshare reviews. You couldn't type in, is it a good idea to buy Westgate timeshare? Just none of that existed. And those long keyword searches. And even if you could, you were smart enough to type that in. No websites out there existed that would give you reviews. TripAdvisor doesn't exist. There's so many things that we take for granted, the knowledge that are at our fingertips that just didn't exist 30 years ago. And for my father and that group of timeshare owners that all kind of, started in a Prodigy chat room as a bulletin board at the time, to start a website, to start to compile this. And I do remember all of the stuff on Tug back in the day is all hand coded. It was just typing HTML and Notepad. Computer science degree in 1998. It absolutely has come a long way. It still blows my mind at how things have changed over the past 30 years. But I personally still can write HTML, and some of the web pages are updated. But you didn't have like Composer and things. You can't just make a website in Word like you can do now. It was legitimately all typed up in Notepad or some other uh, program like that, and then published to a website. And when you needed to update it, you had to update each and every one. So I can't even comprehend the level of effort required by that group, my father and the volunteers, that would legitimately create a page for every timeshare in existence. There was an individual page created straight out of HTML, with all of that uploaded. Links to pictures, and any review that would come in, it would manually be updated and updated on that page. And the amount of effort and the amount of work, labor required to do all that back, in the 90s. And I didn't come into the scene until the late 2000s, for that matter. And so things were much different now than even when they started. But I regret that I was not involved. I didn't even know what my father really did, to be perfectly honest. Back when I was in college, I knew we did something on the computer, but I didn't know what Tug was. So it's absolutely fascinating to come in, and now 30 years later, being the face of the company now, taking it over from him, and to see how far it has come, and as a community, and just existing as a place where someone can go to get the information that they need, because there's just so much bad information out there, and so many scams that are out there. And the amount of money that is spent on uh, uh, advertising against the advice that Tug gives out is just mind blowing. I challenge any of you to just type into a web browser, help me sell my timeshare, or how do I sell my timeshare, or how do I get out of a timeshare, or any of those common phrases and the fact that Google now, and all of the search engines now have seamlessly integrated paid ads with the organic search results. It's very difficult, even trying to determine what is a natural organic search result, especially on Google, and a paid ad. There is a tiny little link at the top of the Google listings that shows promotion. I think is what it says now. That kind of flags the top three listings that used to be, at the time, the top three web pages out there that matched your search. And now, unfortunately, it's those have been replaced by paid ads, and you have to scroll down a little bit more, almost below the fold of the first page, to get to the first natural organic listing that someone hasn't paid to boost up to the very top. And unfortunately, those those high dollar keywords are all scams. You can't throw a rock these days without hitting a timeshare exit company scammer or a timeshare resale scammer, because the return on investment, and you paying $5 to $10 to $20 a click. If you're collecting $5,000 for each person that you actually, excuse me, that you actually get to utilize your services, it's not uncommon for these companies to spend $80 to $100,000 a month in Google ads, or really search advertising, whether it's across Google or Bing, or any of the major search engines that are out there. And that kind of money it even dwarfs developer spending. Wyndham doesn't have, a company the size of Wyndham is not spending 100,000 a month advertising to timeshare owners. It's so When you have an organization, or not just a single organization, but you have an entire industry, for lack of a better term, focused on paying that kind of money, that's what's going to be bombarded, and that's what's going to show up first on any search for those terms. And so it's no surprise that I would say the average timeshare owner, I mean, if I don't know how to put odds on it, but I would bet that anyone typing that in for the first time in Google is going to encounter a scam, or is likely going to click on, or those ads or those listings that show up that mimic the top search results are going to be upfront fee resale or upfront fee exit scams. And it's almost a certainty. And I look at people who are as uh, technically savvy as my mother, who just assume, are not really. I'm not going to say they're smart enough, because they're perfectly smart people, but technologically, the older generation is just not as. Again, please don't flame me and down thumb me or anything. I'm not trying to say that the older generation are dumb by any means, but the understanding the nuance between an actual legitimate search result and a paid ad, or a Google ad, or a link, or something like that. So you're going to see something that is telling you exactly what you want, which is, hey, I can get you out of your timeshare guaranteed. They're likely to click on it, and when they get there, they go to a very clean and polished website that is targeted, specifically designed to target that person who is desperate to get rid of their timeshare. And so when they see that message of, I can guarantee I can get you out, and they reinforce all the negative consequences of not getting out of your timeshare. Hey, you don't want to saddle your kids with it, or you don't want to be paying maintenance fees forever, or it's impossible to sell. All these things that they've maybe even experienced because it's been difficult to sell. It just reinforces everything. And hey, this company really gets me. This company is really actually built to help people like me. So I'm willing to shell out $4,999, because that's a couple years worth of maintenance fees, so it's worth it if I get out of it. And thus the vicious cycle of falling into that trap, and it just catches the average person is going to fall into that. And it's very disturbing. And the industry just has done very little, if anything, to combat or correct it, unfortunately. And it's really a sad situation to see. A couple comments: exit companies spending big money. Absolutely not even. They are outspending everyone in this market, including the developers. As long as the timeshare exit company has money coming in, they have money to spend on ads. Their entire income stream is almost pure profit. Exactly. They do nothing in terms of there's no real cost involved in the solution that they provide. Their cost is all lead generation, and having someone answer phones or answer emails. So there's not actually any sort of labor involved in the process that they use to exit someone's timeshare. It's very straightforward and very simplistic, and it's zero cost to them. They make it sound like yeah, they're actively working your case, or they're actively representing you. Making it seem like they have a team of lawyers in the back that are filing cases in court against to sue your timeshare on your behalf. And it just doesn't work like that. But it sounds great. The pitch is fantastic, and it's exactly what you want to hear. Yeah, I want to stick it to that timeshare. They ripped me off. So I'm happy to pay these guys to go after them. And unfortunately, while that's the impression that they give, it's just not the reality. But again, unfortunately, um, people are susceptible to clever marketing, and the timeshare industry seems to attract the best and the brightest in the world, in terms both of getting you into a timeshare, and now getting you out of a timeshare. And it is truly an industry unlike any other that I've ever encountered. I'm sure there are probably some more ugly industries out there, maybe like penny stocks or stuff like that come to mind. But truly, timesharing is got a black eye, if not two black eyes, unfortunately, for a good reason. And they seem to find better and better ways over the past 20 years to to do their best into parting people from their money, not so much in making their product better, but separating, making customers as profitable as possible, both on the intake side and the exit side. And I just don't see that changing anytime soon. I do remember specifically that maybe 10 years or so, the internet was, I don't want to pick a point when the internet was, became, I don't say mainstream, but now it's. I mean, if someone told you now that they didn't have a smartphone or they didn't know what Google is or couldn't search, you'd probably think that was pretty frustrating, or you probably wouldn't believe them for lack of a better term. But I remember in 2008 or so, when the industry really collapsed, that the entire economy really collapsed, and we always thought it was going to be the death of time sharing. We've said that a couple times now. COVID being the second time, that being the death of time sharing. But in 2008, it just hit everyone, and we didn't think that time sharing could possibly recover because it was so easy to search the website and search for the information about the truth about timeshares, to find TUG, or find information about the resale market or stuff like that. The industry proved us wrong. They managed to recover and are bigger and better than ever. And so it still is amazing to me, and I use this quote very frequently, that the average person does more research on the next smartphone they're going to buy or the next big screen TV they buy than they do before buying a timeshare. And that's signing a contract to plop down 20 grand for something you're going to own for the rest of your life. I don't know if it's well, actually, I do know. They believe that it's something that they can go home and research later, and if they find out it's not for them, that they could cancel. You just bought it. What are the odds? Not realizing that you only have a few short days to cancel, and most of those were probably already taken up by your vacation. While you were sitting there by the pool, not realizing that that 7 day window that you have to cancel is likely gone by the time you get home. It still blows my mind that I can't fathom signing a contract to buy something like that without doing any research at all, but yet it happens every single day. Unfortunately, it's not so much. There's blame on both sides, because the average person doesn't believe a salesperson is going to look them in the eye and lie. That pleasant gentleman or gentle lady who is telling you everything great about their product is paid to sell that product, but you would never think that they would go at to the point of outright lying to you or deliberately misleading you into buying something that was just not what they were selling, knowing full well that what they were selling you is not what you were buying. And so there's trust involved on that side, and obviously an abuse of that trust by the salesperson. But at some point there has to be some sort of accountability for making such a massive financial decision, whether it's the initial purchase price, or the fact that you are now signing a contract to pay 1,200 to 15 to $2,000 a year in maintenance fees for the rest of your life. That is just a staggering commitment to make without doing any research at all. And so, we've kind of, I don't want to say we've given up, because we will always continue to try and fight, the misleading sales tactics and things like that in the industry. But it's come to a point where, it's fair to say that the only person looking out for you is you as a timeshare owner. So, the laws that exist to protect consumers from these sort of sale tactics exist, just not enforced. And you looking for help or looking for someone to bail you out is going to end up in disappointment more often than not. And unfortunately, while we would like to think that the justice system is just, there is just no real indication that this industry is going to turn itself around and stop the misleading sales tactics, and stop certainly not going to offer people a year to cancel, or to change their mind and cancel or something like that. We've always preached education, but and we've always thought that as the internet grew, the information at your fingertips, it's just so easy to do the research, that more and more people would stop buying timeshares because they would see what a poor deal it is to buy direct from the resort, versus, especially after learning about the resale market. But it hasn't happened. It always fails year in and year out. We think this is going to be the year that you're just going to see a major shift in the average person realizing how poor an idea it is to buy direct from the developer without doing any research. And it just never manifests. Yes, we get a small percentage of people that find TUG before they buy, or shortly after they buy, but in the grand scheme of things, what was it, $10 billion in retail sales last year alone? TUG is not making a dent in steering the average timeshare owner, timeshare buyer, away from buying a new timeshare. or we are making a dent, but it's so minuscule that as to be probably a rounding error, for lack of a better term that I can think of. Are they still using Viking ships to get rid of them, or do they have a new scam? Yeah, the Viking ship thing went away. Timeshare Relief spearheaded that particular scheme, and that industry just ran rampant for years until the industry, which is funny because the industry, ARDA, for lack of a better term, actually had many of these Viking ship companies at the time as ARDA members, and it only when it became a problem, meaning these LLCs that were developed to just to answer the question, what is a Viking ship? For those of you tuned in or not aware, a Viking ship scheme was when a company would promise to get you out of your timeshare, and then they would actually transfer your ownership to a bogus or shell corporation. They would create an LLC in a random, very LLC friendly state, say Delaware, for instance, and they would start transferring ownerships into that LLC. And the resorts would allow these transfers to take place because at the time it wasn't really common knowledge that the goal was just to get hundreds, if not thousands, of deeds into these LLCs and actually never pay the maintenance fees. So you would have these companies that would collect just staggering numbers of deeds, and these they have no other assets, and then the LLC would just dissolve. The exit company that created it would simply not renew the LLC after the year and not respond to any of the maintenance fee requests or the bills or anything like that. And then resorts started realizing that, hey, we just last year alone we transferred 200 ownerships into this XYZ LLC company out of Delaware that doesn't really have any contact information and they're not answering. And so to combat that obviously took years for the resort, the industry itself, to catch on of what was going on. And so most resorts now, especially the larger chains, and will now do a bit more due diligence in terms if you're transferring, if the new owner is an LLC or a corporation. It's not illegal to transfer a timeshare to a corporation, but now the resorts will do a little bit of background research, if not outright deny initially a transfer to a new corporation. Especially if it's a corporation that was recently created, has no other assets, as in a particular state, or the corporation doesn't match a normal person, or they can do a search to see how many other ownerships at the resort are in that name. So when resorts started doing that, especially the major resorts started really cracking down on transfers to corporations, that pretty much ended that scheme of timeshare exit, allowing and it was a great pitch because they would say, hey, we're guaranteed we'll take your timeshare from you, we'll take it off your hands, you don't have to pay another dime, you just fork over five, six, seven, that whatever the fee was at the time. It was in the thousands that they would charge people to do this, but it was great for the owner because, hey, when I don't own this timeshare anymore. It's been deeded to another person. I don't care that that person is a corporation. I don't care that that person isn't going to pay maintenance fees. I just know that I'm out of that timeshare, and they were, but yeah, the Viking ship has kind of gone the way of the dodo. I'm not going to say that it's not completely gone, as people are very, very creative, especially in the scam side, to use things to their advantage, use individuals to their advantage to create and individuals that are specifically. I even saw a post on Reddit where a guy was saying his roommate used his name to transfer 50 timeshares. He was just running one of those schemes and transferred 50 ownerships into that guy's name, and now that guy's like, what the heck, got 50 maintenance fee bills the next year or something like that. So there are more creative ways to do it and try to do that Viking ship model, but by and large the resorts are now looking out for it, and it generally doesn't work out that well these days, and then they have certainly put forth barriers to keeping that running rampant. And unfortunately, now that the exit industry has just adopted the default model, which is much easier, much less work, and much more profitable. So there's really no reason for the Viking ship model to exist anymore, because you just collect money to tell people to default, and then they're eventually out of their timeshare, even if it takes years. So it's even more creative now that they've now adopted the monthly pay model, meaning you'll pay a lower fee to initiate, but while you're in our program to exit your timeshare, you pay us $199 a month or $500 a month while we're working on getting you out of your timeshare. And they know this stuff stretches out for years, so it's actually more profitable to sign someone up for that, because they can get far more money from these people while they're milking them. Well, hey, we're working on your we're working with the resort. It's coming along. Just stick with us, and they can extract more money by signing these people up. Getting their bank account so they can auto draft it to getting this kind of solution. is more profitable than just the one time fee, and then they just instruct them to stop paying. And the foreclosure could take years in many cases, and they've gotten smart and realized that if the process is going to take years, well, why not charge people a monthly fee for it? What do we got? A couple questions here. Let's go. From Timon, is there a good way to gain access to inventory expiring soon at a low price when owning a timeshare? Is that through an exchange company? That is a great question. I think what you're asking is for like excess inventory that the two exchange companies offer as essentially rentals. And yes, I mean, that is a fantastic way to maximize an interval or RCI membership, both their last calls and getaways offer extreme discounts in terms of nightly stays or weekly stays at timeshares. The downside, obviously, is the majority of that inventory is very low demand inventory, low value inventory, and that's why it's so cheap. It's not to say that you won't find a diamond in the rough. If someone turns in something at the last minute, it'll likely immediately be thrown up on the last call so that they can monetize that in any way that they can. But by and large, when you're searching for that stuff, it is really studios and one bedrooms at lower end resorts that they whatever algorithm is going on behind the scenes, either RCI or II, that determines the chances of that being exchanged for are low enough that we're just going to throw it on our rental side. Or they don't call it a rental side, but that's in essence what it is. The other best place you can go is the TUG last minute rental section. It's on the forums. It's free and open to the public. All of the rentals listed there are listed by owners, and they all have to be under $115 a night, which is an incredible bargain in this day and age. And you can find stuff all over the world. Hawaii, it's good. Go skiing, Orlando. All of that stuff is just thrown up there by owners who can't use that interval that year and are just trying to recoup some of their maintenance fees. We limited it to a nightly rate just to ensure that everything posted there is a deal. We want to make sure that people who are searching that are searching there because they're extreme discounts. And you can find some amazing deals on last minute vacations within the next 45 days. Whereas our marketplace has far more rentals listed, but they're not limited in price, meaning people can charge market value or more for rentals in the marketplace, while the last minute rental section on the forums is limited to that extremely low discounted price and within the next 45 days. So if you're flexible with your travel and you're looking for a deal, the last minute rental section is an absolute amazing place to bookmark and visit on a regular basis because new stuff gets posted there every day. And I will say that many other people bookmark that and they will snap those deals up, especially some that I've seen. You're looking at someone offers an entire week for $500. I personally have taken some where I've paid for the entire week just to stay for a weekend, just because it's still cheaper to pay $400 or $500 to stay, a long weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, something like that. Even if you don't even use the majority of the week, it's still such a bargain that just staying for those few nights still makes it far cheaper than anything else you can find in the market. It's convenient for me because I'm only an hour and a half from Orlando, so I can take my kids there at the last minute. But yes, to answer your question, RCI and II last call and getaway weeks are amazing deals that you can find in both of those exchange companies if you have memberships. The TUG last minute rental section obviously doesn't have anywhere near the volume that those do, but they're usually much nicer units. You find 2 and 3 bedrooms there, but you have to be far more flexible in your travel, just in the fact that it's not like hotels.com where you can I want to go to this particular city on this particular date. These things are such deeply discounted, and so stuff posted there within the next 45 days is just kind of all over the map. So if you're a type of person who lets a deal dictate where you want to go, meaning, I just want to take a vacation in the next 30 days. Oh, look, Vail, Colorado, 2 bedrooms that I can go skiing for $600, and then I'll figure out how to get there because I already have lodging. So those are the kind of deals you find in the TUG last minute rental section. Own 3 vacation clubs. I'm wondering how vacation club companies to timeshare resale ownership besides the vacation week time. Downside of that, vacation clubs, if you mean vacation travel clubs, not so much like Marriott Vacation Club, but the vacation travel club where you're buying a membership into an organization that doesn't really give you anything. It's not a deeded ownership. It's not really an ownership to anything. They really just offer you discounted weeks. The downside to that is they're just never. I've never encountered one that was worth the money paid to buy into it. Just like a timeshare, paying retail is for lack of a better term, it's just not the best use of your money. And in most cases, the discounts that they offer are available through the rental market, whether it's renting through other owners at the resort system you want to go to, or the TUG marketplace, the last minute rental section, or as you mentioned earlier, the IIRCI last minute getaway weeks. It's just, it's the allure of that is that you get these amazing discounts on 5-star accommodations whenever you want to, and uh, the reality just isn't there. Yes, you could probably stay in those 5-star resorts, but only in a really small window, or most of the important and useful or desirable dates are blacked out. And so you aren't able to get, you pay full freight anytime you want, but the discounted stuff that they offer is extremely limited. So we have never promoted vacation clubs, nor have we ever suggested that they were a good deal, just because that in almost all situations they have no value, and it's certainly not something that you would pay money to buy into. You almost never recover the money that you paid, because those extreme deals can be had through other free means, through, again, as you mentioned, RCI or II if you were a timeshare owner, or the rental market, whether it's TUG, whether it's Red Week, whether eBay has a tremendous number of rentals listed on there. Just timeshare rentals are available, and then just about anywhere, and you don't need to pay an exclusive fee to any sort of club to get access to discounted timeshare rentals. Same with postcard companies, not really around much anymore. You're absolutely correct. That the postcard companies dominated the industry. 10 or so years ago, it's easy marketing for them to just send out 10,000 postcards to whatever timeshare owners list they want, inviting people. It was a catchy pitch. I can get you out of your timeshare guaranteed. Still is. The pitch is still used. I can guarantee to get you out of your timeshare. Stuck in a timeshare, I can help. Guaranteed. Guarantee. That is what people want to hear. That is a catchy headline. That is an easy. I could sell that to Eskimos. Popsicles to Eskimos. It's just it's what the average person searching that the average timeshare owner probably wants to get rid of it at some point. So just such a catchy headline. That's why we used it in our last one of our videos. Is a 100% guaranteed exit solution for your timeshare. It's someone's going to click on that. If anyone has a timeshare and they're looking to get out of it, that pitch alone, and the postcards came out with that. Hey, just come to this meeting at Red Lobster. Not only we get a free dinner, but I can guarantee and get you out of your timeshare. Hey, well, that sounds great. I'll go get free. Those cheddar biscuits at least are delicious, so maybe they got something out of it. But yeah, it's just the pitch stays the same because it's super easy and super simple and super attractive. But now it's just shifted to the timeshare exit industry where they still offer the same guarantee, just through a much easier and lower cost method that you can do yourself, and that is to just stop paying for your timeshare. Uh, Billy Mack, hi, a bit late around here. Thank you very much for chiming in, Billy. Looks like we're up to a dozen people, 2 likes. Thank you so much. I certainly appreciate everyone who's chimed in. Saying good as it hurts the owners who have to make up for all the bad debt for non-payment on maintenance fees. Man, that's kind of like a segue into one of our other topics. But you're absolutely right. And when owners default, the cost of a timeshare, running a timeshare, doesn't go down. It just like everything, everyone in the world is paying more for everything, whether it's eggs or gas or your insurance, both car and home insurance. Everything costs more, and running a timeshare is no different. The property tax and the pay the labor of the front desk staff and the manager and the management company. All those costs go up, and so when owners, more and more owners start defaulting, that those bills still have to be paid for the timeshare to keep running. So and every year, I'm not to say that suddenly defaults are a brand new expense or a brand new line item for timesharing. It's just not the case. But for any of you who actually looked at a detailed annual report or your annual budget, the line item for bad debt or default or whatever that particular management company's accountant names that line item, has probably gone up. I would say over the past 5 to 10 years is probably doubled, if not more. So while it's still able to be absorbed by the remaining owners, you're absolutely right. There's if your maintenance fee went up $100 last year or $200 last year, there's a significant percentage of that was probably that bad debt line item for the owners who have defaulted. They have projections on what percentage of annual maintenance fees are just not going to be collected. And if you look at your proposed budget for 2024 for your resort, there's that bad debt item includes what they're projecting in 2024 that they won't collect in terms of maintenance fees. So that there's algorithms and the accountants much smarter than me, and factor that in. But I would be willing to bet that that percentage has gone up significantly the past couple of years, and with all the maintenance fee increases that we're seeing for 2024, I predict it's going to be a bloodbath. There are going to be a much larger and default ratio this year or excuse me, in 2024 than we saw during the COVID years, and so it's just a really ugly situation for some resorts. Obviously, larger resorts and resorts that are part of major chains can absorb that much easier than smaller and/or independent resorts. But it is a real thing that is going to start manifesting itself with inflation the way it is. And then especially one of our other topics is if you own property in on the water in Florida, you just this year's maintenance fee is just going to hurt the insurance and the cost of all these inspections and the reserve studies that the new Florida law is mandating, and we'll get to that in a separate topic later on. But I know there's a condo just down the road on the water that a friend of mine lives in, and they got a $2,000 special assessment this year just to cover the cost of this stuff. And I don't think their annual dues were even 75% of that. So this is a real thing. Maintenance fees have gone up a staggering amount this year. And those of you who own waterfront property, and any property in Florida, the insurance in Florida has gone through the roof, not just homeowners, but renters insurance, the insurance for condos, especially on the water, is staggeringly high now. And this new law that is requiring these condos to fully fund their reserves and conduct reserve studies as well as structural integrity studies, get architects and engineers to come in and do all this stuff. Those costs are tremendous and are really going to hit Florida owners in the pocketbook for sure. Especially in timeshares that are blue and white time pay the same maintenance fees as red time. Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. We talked about this on the forums. For a timeshare that is truly not a full year timeshare, it's not something that is year round, or at least not high demand year round. And a good example of that is like well, it used to be ski weeks. Or season where there's not snow in there. It's only snow on the ground for a certain number of months, and owning on off-season week didn't really provide a very desirable week. Now, obviously, many mountain resorts have found ways to monetize the off-season week so that they don't just completely shut down. But there are examples like that all over the place. Seasonal timeshares where you have a really you know poor weather or whatever it happens to be that makes visiting there on vacation less than desirable versus beautiful summer weeks or spring weeks, the shoulder season weeks that people truly want to go to. And when the maintenance fees are the same for every room for every week of the year, why would it's a bargain for the guy who has the beautiful summer beach in Nantucket, and it probably sucks for the guy who has the mid February where it's the frozen tundra up there that no one wants to visit. And I may be just completely mischaracterizing Nantucket, but I imagine that anywhere in the Northeast on the coast in February just sucks. For me, I'm from Florida, and anything below 60 is not pleasant for me. So, but yeah, when you have 52 weeks all paying the same maintenance fees, uh, or 51 weeks paying all the same maintenance fees, the people that have the beautiful high desirable weeks paying the same amount per year as the people who have the less than desirable weeks, it creates that bias or the disparity that eventually the people with the mud weeks are the ones who are going to default. Why am I paying my maintenance fees keep going up the same as the guy with the beautiful week, and I never visit this place. I bought it to exchange, but my fees keep going up. I don't want this anymore. It's unsellable. Who wants to buy, February and in the snow and on the coast? So you see that the defaults are happening with the mud week owners, and the people that have the highly desirable weeks are happy and are willing to pay the increase each year. But there comes a point when you're physically being subsidized by the people that have the crappy weeks, the remainder of the resort. And unfortunately, once that percentage of default of those weeks gets high enough, it's not going to be even the people with the desirable weeks are no longer going to find the value in paying. Would you pay twice your maintenance fee even if you had the most beautiful week in Cape Cod? Would you pay three times your maintenance fees? There comes a point at which the value of ownership based on what you're paying annually in maintenance fees, tips, or breaks even, and then starts to go into the negative. And unfortunately, that's going to be the death spiral for many independent resorts. As the maintenance fees rise to a point at which all of the average and low to average owners no longer find value in that, and then eventually it gets shifted to the people who have the above average and the high demand weeks that are now no longer going to be as attractive. You buy a timeshare because it's cheaper. You buy a timeshare to save on vacation. I didn't buy a timeshare to pay $2,500, $3,000 a year to stay in somewhere that I could have just rented for cheaper off TUG or VRBO or any other site. I own because it's cheaper to own. I don't own because it's the same or more expensive to own than it is to rent. And once it gets to that point, then it costs more to own than to rent, and there's very little a resort can do to recover from that, especially if it's a smaller or independent resort that doesn't have the backing of a large chain or other resorts to prop it up. Own a couple deeded weeks in Virginia Beach. Diamond Resorts received the first statement of owner resorts and maintenance fees went up $90. Well, I guess that's not terrible. The average maintenance fee is $1,200. So if your maintenance fee went up $90, that's less than 10%. It's not ideal. Obviously, no one wants to see their maintenance fees go up. But given some of the reports that people of the Westin owners who are seeing a 23% or 25% increase in their 2024 fees, I think they would probably hop, skip, and jump to see a $90 increase. That you know, it I don't know if so much Virginia Beach. The Florida stuff is really what got nailed this year with, as we mentioned, those laws that were passed, that especially on the water. But I mean, $90 is nothing to sneeze at. It could be 10% increase, and that still unfortunately doesn't cover inflation, especially for the past year. So, it might be that I don't know what your increase was last year. Was it similar or less? It could be that they were able to, that the resort was in good shape. They had done maintenance or had their reserves up. That resorts don't raise your maintenance fees to make profit. It's just now they might raise your maintenance fees to maintain a profit, meaning that if they're operating at most resorts operate at as they're the homeowners association is not there to make a profit. Now, obviously, the percentage of the money that they pay out of your maintenance fees to the management company, and then to earn money and paying the staff and so on and so forth does turn a profit. But the resort itself didn't add $90 to your maintenance fees just to make $90 more off every owner for that year. Obviously, the costs of running the resort increased to a point that include the money paid out to the management company and then the resort staff and so on and so forth, to maintain the same level of profitability, or to maintain the same level of running the resort that was last year, cost all the owners $90 more. But again, I would be willing to bet, especially wise, that the majority of that was, you look at insurance, and insurance just about everywhere has just, especially homeowners insurance. So the property insurance has just skyrocketed. It's absolutely crazy how much. You look at your automobile insurance as well. Obviously, that's not a line item for your timeshare, but these costs, these real costs exist, and I know people just tend to see the increase in maintenance fees, and yeah, that sucks and it's disappointing, and no one wants to see that. But again, I try to stress that the resorts aren't increasing these fees just to you know pad their pockets, for lack of a better term. Real tangible costs of maintaining the resort and running the resort, and you as just like you owning your own home, the cost of your homeowner's insurance, and the cost of electricity, and the cost of gas, cost of water heater, whatever you happen to have. The water bill, our water bill went crazy. We had a huge special assessment here in Clay County, where I live, for uh, stormwater drainage, so that they could improve the underground drainage and pipes and so on and so forth. So those costs, they're real costs involved, and especially if your resort is 20, 30, 40 years old, and stuff all starts kind of cascading at once. When stuff was built 30, 40 years ago, the piping is not 100-year piping. Even if it's copper, the underground drainage, the roof, the air conditioning systems, things kind of start cascading, and kind of snowballing at the 30 or 40-year mark, or even the 50-year mark, where stuff that just wasn't really thought of 50 years ago when it was put in. I'm sure someone thought in 50 years this is going to have to be replaced, but And all of that stuff has a real tangible cost. And as the owners of that resort, that is going to be passed on to you. Even Diamond's not going to eat replacing a roof. They're going to pass that cost on to the owner at that resort. Well, big developers that get a percentage of the maintenance fee have no real incentive to keep fees down. They can easily spend other people's money to give the staff big raises. You're not wrong. 100% that the percentage of that the maintenance fee that goes back to the developer. But that line item, I don't think they're changing the percentage, so to speak. You're absolutely right that they have no incentive to lower that, because obviously that means they get less money. But I don't, at least I haven't seen that percentage of that fee go up. So if we'll just call it 5%, I'm not saying that's accurate at all. But if 5% of every maintenance fee goes back to Diamond, and please, again, I'm just using examples here. Don't quote me on this. That, oh, Tug said 5%. That yes, going up to from 1,000 to 1,100, obviously, kicks another $5 into the kitty there for them. But I would also be willing to bet that uh, that is that wasn't the reason it was raised to $90. That they didn't say, hey, we need Diamond wants to give everyone a raise, so we need to raise all the Diamond owners maintenance fees by $90. Yes, it's a side benefit that every time maintenance fee increases, Diamond makes a little bit more. That said, the cost of everything, from staples to the cost of running Diamond resorts, or Marriott, everything, labor costs, people have to make a living, so the cost of everything is going up. And I'd be willing to bet that even if that was a 5% increase on their side, it probably didn't cover the cost of inflation. So it's an ugly situation. We've always said that maintenance, it's rare for maintenance fees to go down. It's even rare for maintenance fees to stay stagnant. Some resorts are much better managed than others, but it requires some really good board members to volunteer their time and be on top of things and make hard decisions. But in this day and age, I mean, for example, a homeowner station I'm part of, it we are limited to how much we can raise dues every year by the part of the charter. We can't raise more than 5% without approval from like 70% of the association, which you would never get. You just can't do something like that. You could be handing out gold bricks, and 70% of the people aren't going to vote for it. Uh, and so it just puts us behind the eight ball, in which we could raise 5% every year. But if the costs of running the resort, or the costs, all of your costs are going up by 10% every year, you just keep getting in further and further and further behind. And thus, your only answer at that point is a special assessment, which many resorts do. And we will start seeing more resorts, especially in Florida, do, because the costs of these upcoming costs that are just staggering, are just going to absolutely flood. It's just not something a resort can absorb, and especially if you're operating on a budget that provides, a zero sum game. You're not making money, you're not losing money. It's a terrible analogy, but the budget all zeroes out at the end of the year. So whatever profits made is factored into there. So when you add let's call it a $200,000 unexpected expense to that, $200,000 got to come from somewhere. And just as Jeremy mentioned, you can bet your bottom dollar that Diamond Resorts isn't going to eat that. They're not going to donate 200 grand to that resort to pay that. It's going to be added into the 2024 budget as an increase in dues or special assessment or something like that to allow the resort to absorb that, because as the owners, you are the ones who are essentially at the end of the day going to pay for the expenses of running the resort. So I always urge people to read the annual budget that they get, either the next year's annual budget proposal, which they are obligated to provide you. And now, whether or not they put that on the website and don't tell you where it is, or actually print it out and send it to you in mail, you should be able to request it. But take a look at it. It should come in your maintenance fee. Most larger resorts will send you the annual budget, whether the current budget as a year to date, as well as the proposed budget for 2024, so that you can look to see exactly what these line items are mentioned. Where are your maintenance fees going? How much is paying for what? And you can ask questions about that stuff. That's most owners don't, but it is something to know. If you're going to get angry about it, if you're genuinely passionate about it, and you want to know where this money's going, take a look at those budgets, both the year to date for 2023 to see what you've spent so far, and the proposed budget for 2024 to see how they have adjusted and why they're charging you $90 more or $100 more or $1,000 more this year, versus just assuming that it's this is terrible. I don't want to pay this. It might very well be a legitimate reason. Now, that said, it may no longer be in your best interest or may no longer be, you don't consider it a valued ownership when the maintenance fee increases to a point where it becomes, less than desirable for you to own. And at that point, you need to investigate diverging from your ownership or exiting your timeshare. But I just don't want to very important to understand that, Diamond Resorts, and I know what people like to say that the big evils, Marriott's not sitting around looking to raise your maintenance fees just to increase their bottom line. Just not how associations work. And you can verify that by looking at those budget, those both the year-to-date budget and the proposed budget for 2024. Yes, as the budget goes up, as Jeremy mentioned, that as the maintenance fees go up, they make a little bit more, but again, it's a very, very small amount in terms of that is not going to make or break a company like Marriott or a company like Diamond Resorts or anything like that. So, what will make or break an individual resort is the delinquent fees. As the fees rise, more and more owners start wanting to exit, and then finding how difficult it is, if not impossible, to exit, and then will default either deliberately on their own or become victim to an exit company and default tangentically for I don't even know if that's a word, to be perfectly honest, but unintentionally default, and thus putting more pressure on the remaining owners. And in the next year, their maintenance fees will increase to offset that default cost. And it's just been an ugly cycle that's slowly ramped up for a while now. And I predict that 2024 will be a pretty banner year for that. Not that it'll be a good banner, but I expect to see the default line item for almost all resorts across the board to increase at a more significant rate or a more significant percentage than it has in the past. You know. What do we got? More and more activities, amenities. It just pads their managed fee. That you're absolutely right. The Marriott exists to make money. The resort exists to function and obviously be a healthy resort to maintain and stay open for its owners. But at the end of the day, if it wasn't profitable for Marriott to run timeshares or Diamond to run timeshares, and I keep saying Marriott, so I need to stop doing that. So I feel like I'm picking on them. But these resort developers exist to make money, and then I'm not trying to defend them, but it is the name of the game. If timeshare suddenly weren't profitable for Diamond or Marriott, they would go away very, very quickly, and then owners would just not like that at all. That would just be a horrible thing for the industry. So they're obviously going to make decisions based on their best interest, not yours as an owner. But that doesn't mean that you can't be involved with how your particular resort is run and at least understand exactly where your money is going. If you're paying $1,500 or $2,000 a year in maintenance fees, I personally want to know where that money's going. I want to ask those questions and, hey, what is this? How come that you're charging me for this, and you're looking at the reserve, you plan on updating all the carpet in my building next year, and that costs $75,000. That's fantastic. I've been waiting for that forever. So there might be pleasant surprises in terms of how your money's being spent maintenance fee wise, and there might be really ugly surprises that you can certainly ask your board of directors or homeowners association and get their answers on that and figure out exactly where your money is going. It's your money. You're the owner at that resort. They're not going to spoon feed that information to you. So it is important for you to be proactive and read that and ask those questions. You're obligated to get those answers from that management company or from the board of directors. And there's no reason why they shouldn't provide you with that information or those answers to those questions. I would say that most annual meetings now are at least streamed live on Zoom so that you can either phone in or tune in over your computer. And yeah, maybe 80% of that is dull and boring, much like anything timeshare related for that matter. But uh, they're discussing how to spend your money. So for you to be able to participate and hear that from the people who are making those decisions and ask them questions, or at least get your questions answered, might make more sense, or at least might make you feel a little bit better about that maintenance fee increase that you're paying versus just thinking it's going into someone's pocket. So well-funded reserves make for higher fees, but underfunded result in special assessments. Pick your poison. You're absolutely right. That is every board member's just kind of Achilles heel. Do you kick the can down the road and let some other board member deal with the special assessment while you remain popular and not increase people's dues, so you can continue to run and say, hey, I've kept dues down for 10 years. Well, yeah, you just dug a hole for the resort that some other poor schlep is going to have to vote for a special assessment, to to dig you out of that hole when that check eventually comes due. And the costs, but it's a balancing act. Do you do nothing? Obviously, that is a popular solution because the average owner has no idea. They just know that their maintenance fees didn't go up that year. So yeah, you're a great board member. Fantastic. I like the way you run things. You've kept my maintenance fees low, not realizing that they've just deferred maintenance or repairs that should have been done decades ago because they don't want to levy a special assessment of $1,000 to owners because they don't want to get lynched. They don't want to have people sending them nasty gram emails or stuff like that. So it is difficult. They're extremely difficult decisions to make because you're choosing to impact thousands of other people with your decisions, and they're again, there are popular decisions with those thousands of people without all the information. But eventually the bill comes due. You just can't, you can only offset, needed repairs for so long. Stuff just doesn't fix itself. Pipes don't fix themselves. Infrastructure doesn't get better on its own. Roofs don't suddenly fix, don't suddenly not need repair replacement. So all of those fees should be in a reserve study, but again, I've encountered it very, very often. It's very, very easy for a board member to take the high road, take the easy road. We'll just deal with that next year, and unfortunately, that becomes the same answer for 10 years. We'll just deal with that next year. We'll just deal with that next year, and then that person resigns, and then the person, the next board that comes in or the next president that comes in says, well, what the heck, this should have been done 10 years ago, and why weren't we at least collecting fees to pay for this over 10 years? If we, weren't going to do anything about it, we know it needed to be done. So why didn't we make plans to do that? And, and then that board member is long gone. And it's just, you'd be amazed at how difficult that decision is. The right answer obviously is to plan for it or do it as it comes due, but that's not the popular answer. Many people just don't want to deal with, board members aren't usually paid positions, so you're asking another owner to look at the data and make a decision based on what they think is best for the resort, and some succumb to the pressure. It is very easy to do nothing, and to let someone else deal with it, or let it become someone else's problem, and that's, it becomes even easier when owners don't challenge board members or don't challenge boards or associations to hey, this was scheduled to be done, or the parking lot was supposed to be repaved 10 years ago and we haven't done it, or the phase 3 building should have had new TVs. You said you've saved for 5 years now, you're going to replace them. It's when people don't hold associations or boards to the task of what they plan, then it's very, very easy for them to just let it go because they can just say, well, it's not a problem, no one's complaining, and so you just I always urge people. I know it's difficult in time sharing, but if you can serve on a board, try, do it, run for it, try. It is an extremely eye-opening experience, and I think it makes you a better owner to know what goes on the other side of the table. It might not be all, might you uncover that take the sheets off that bed and it's full of cockroaches, but it is an extremely eye-opening and humbling experience to be on that side of the table. And I encourage anyone, especially if you're an independent resort, to put your hat in the ring. If they're asking for candidates, give it a shot. Even if you only do it for one term, it will make you a better timeshare owner to at least understand what's going on behind the scenes and what it takes to run a resort of that size, to manage. Maybe it's hundreds, maybe if it's thousands of owners at that resort. It's a very humbling and an educational experience. Odd thing is, Orlando Hilton increases their half the percentage of Marriott and Sheraton. I think SeaWorld is up 88%, but Harbor Lake and Vistana Villages are up over 15%. Yeah, it is very, very odd that it's across the, it's like a dartboard almost. You would think that you would see kind of, uh, what's like about you, these kind of, a standard increase across the board, or at least similar, especially within systems. I will say that, as Sandy mentioned before, it could just be that, the owners or the board or the association chose to kick the can down the road for some of those resorts more than others, and or they've gotten new boards and they've realized how ugly or how bleak some of the situations are for deferred maintenance or deferred projects, and thus they're using this now to catch up on it. The some resorts maybe are being more proactive. Again, it was later on, but the Florida law that talked about the waterfront stuff, obviously it doesn't apply to stuff in Orlando. Well, I guess there could be stuff on the water. Maybe that's the case. Maybe they're considering some of those Orlando resorts that are technically on lakes could be categorized as waterfront? That's actually a super good question, Jeremy. I'm actually going to look into that later. I mean, could some of those fall under this umbrella of the for those of you not aware, Florida passed a law this year for condos to conduct some any condo that's on the water or any resort that's on the water has to carry out some pretty extensive inspections and surveys of the foundations and the structural integrity of the resorts. For those of you that it's on the news viewers, there was a condo in Miami that just collapsed and unfortunately killed a lot of the residents, and it was a super tragic event. And obviously blaming it on lack of maintenance or lack of inspections or the lack of you know basically saying that someone knew about it and didn't do anything about it type thing. And now Florida has passed this law to prevent that from ever happening again. That all resorts must perform uh, these inspections to actually hire engineers and architects to come in and perform these inspections on the foundations and the integrity of all of the resorts if it's on the water. It's I assumed it was more riverfront and or oceanfront, but it could be that lakefront as well. I would consider that on the water, but I never actually asked that question. But with requiring these resorts to do this, and more importantly, they're requiring them to actually conduct reserve studies that show exactly how much it's going to cost to not only shore up or to maintain these foundations and structural integrity based on these inspections. They're forcing these resorts to fully fund the reserves for that. Usually, a Florida provided resorts with the ability to fully fund or vote. The owners could vote to not fully fund the reserves for a resort. If they had upcoming expected expenses, obviously fully funding reserves is going to involve a very, very large special assessment. And Florida, unfortunately, for these waterfront resorts, has taken that away. They're not going to be allowed to vote to not fully fund these reserves. So as you see this law, which was implemented in 2023, many of these resorts are have no choice but to levy these staggering special assessments for 2024, as well as increasing the dues, the maintenance fees as high as they can go legally, just to pay for this stuff. And it's all happened within the past year. The law. Obviously people kind of heard rumors it was coming, but I don't think anyone assumed it would be this extreme and this expensive. But this is something that is I've seen these assessments are multiples of your annual maintenance fees, and it's not just for timeshares. I don't want you to think that this is just something targeting the timeshare industries, but any condominium on the water, any sort of residence, not personal residence, but all of that combined with the increase in insurance for waterfront property in Florida, just due to the hurricanes and flooding and such like that. This line item is just going to shoot up. I saw one resort where it shot up 500% or something like that. That particular line item, it was just insane. The insurance, the annual insurance policy went from like $250,000 to over $1 million for just a year. It was just absolutely mind blowing. So hang on, I got to go back. So we're scrolling this back. Sorry about that. So, so yeah, I mean, I've seen there have been reports, just like the gentleman mentioned, his timeshare only went up $90. See stuff that are kind of following along with CPI, which is 7.5 to 10% increase, and then you see the Weston's reporting 20% increases, and then I think someone showed the Hyatts were super high. Or maybe I'm thinking of a different one, but it is absolutely the fact that they're not all going up at a staggering rate just makes me think that 2024 and then 2025 they got to catch up sometime. Again, as we mentioned, these you're not going to raise. Weston, for example, didn't just make a decision to raise their maintenance fees by 25% just to make a hefty profit in 2024. As they knowing full well that this is just people are just going to have their jaws hit the floor when they see stuff like that, and it will cause a significant percentage of members to feel that it's not worth it anymore. That the value that they got owning your timeshare when it was $1,000 a year is just not worth it at $1,500 or $2,000 a year. I can rent VRBO for cheaper than that, or I can rent off TUG or something like that. So as maintenance fees continue to rise, especially when you see huge jumps, as many have been reported, there's no question that the more expensive something gets, the less valuable it appears to people, especially when you're just looking at a maintenance fee bill versus if you didn't go last year or the year before, especially if you haven't visited your timeshare or utilized it in the past couple of years. Getting a staggering increase just makes kind of leaves bad taste in your mouth. I doubt we'll see a lot of defaults because of increases. Interesting, timeshare seem to have lower default rates. Defaults will occur if there's a downturn in the economy and people lost jobs. Yeah, I mean, I agree with the second part. The defaults when people lose their jobs and the downturn in the economy. I just think that with the cost, the inflation and yeah, everybody's kind of making more money, but everything costs more than the raises you're getting. So I mean, while it seems good on paper that you can claim that everybody's making $15 an hour or $20 an hour or whatever the minimum wage is throughout the states that are going crazy now. That yeah, champion everybody's making more, but the guy who was making who's been at a company for 20 years who's making uh, you know 50, 60, $70,000 a year likely didn't get that kind of raise that we're going there. And anybody who shopped for groceries recently is just I couldn't believe how much just a box of cereal was like $8. I couldn't believe it. And maybe I'm just turning into my father. I'm an old cum drudgeon now, and I remember when candy was 5 cents, or but I was really shocked to pay for a box of cereal for my kids, and it was like $7.85. I absolutely couldn't believe it. So I mean, the cost of everything is going up, and yeah, it's obviously that there's no lack of unemployment isn't a huge thing. You can pretty much get a job anywhere. Everybody's hiring, but your money just doesn't go as far as it did previously, and as there comes a point at everybody's life where the maintenance fees, you're just sick of it. It's just the end of your timeshare lifetime when maintenance fees rise to a point at which you no longer find the value of ownership. And when it was okay when it was a couple percent every year, you go, there's a $20 increase here, $25 increase there. When it gets into the triple digits, or 200 or 300 or $400 or $500 increase, that kind of makes people sit up. I genuinely think maybe it's not a huge percentage. I don't think 20% of the people are going to get a 10% increase in their maintenance fees and suddenly start setting pitchforks on fire. But I think that for every percentage a maintenance fee goes up, there's an equal percentage, and I will say equal. And sorry, it's probably if you were to chart it, for every percent of maintenance fee increase, an additional number of owners, they reaches their point where it's no longer valuable to them. So the higher the maintenance fee increase goes, I think the more owners choose to no longer own anymore or no longer find the value of ownership anymore. So that's been my theory for a while now, and I mean it just kind of makes. I'm an economics major, so that just stuff. Maybe it's just the way I think of things like that. But the rising cost of ownership of everything makes things less desirable. Just can look to spend a rising cost of gas makes people sell giant SUVs and pickup trucks. The rising cost of diesel makes people stop buying F-350s and then switch to Priuses or electric cars or stuff like that. So as things get more expensive, there comes a point, if it only rose 25 cents, people aren't going to immediately sell their stuff. If gas doubled, I'd be willing to bet you'd see a lot more electric cars sold. So it just kind of the law of economics there. And again, I won't pretend to I'm just guessing when I say that if the maintenance fee went up less than $100, the percentage of people who are going to want out is probably very small. If it doubled, I would guess that would be a much larger number. So the law is in 3 miles of a coastline. So and again, is it? I guess ocean coast, because I'm pretty sure it does rivers as well. But I guess maybe St. John's is definitely not 3 miles of the river. Yeah, I'd really want to look at that. But that only impacts how they need to do an inspection and how often they're after. But I'm almost positive that if they haven't done it within a certain amount of time, they have to do it immediately, or they at least have to start, getting the process rolling. Obviously, that you can't find an architect or engineers to schedule them, immediately. I can't call one tomorrow and have them show up to do an inspection the next day. But resorts are actively budgeting for this because that cost is not something they can defer. They're not able to put this off, and like they couldn't previously. And especially for resorts that may not have been inspected or may not have had any of this since they were built 30 or 40 years ago. And you certainly don't want to be the person on that board who didn't do that and now ends up like the people who are managing that tragedy in Miami. No one wants to put their own neck on the line to do that. So especially when you're spending other people's money, it's easy. It's an easy decision to make when the the downside for not doing it is so high that I don't expect many resorts to kind of kick this down the road. Surfside Condo 620. Oh, there's always was that the name of the one in Miami? Yeah, I didn't remember the name of that. Thanks, Jim, for bringing that up. Insurance is up 30% for our resorts. Those are in Orlando. Can't imagine what it's like for coastal. Yeah, that's homeowners insurance as well. That's just the rise. My wife works for Brightway, so I hear complain about this all the time. As Florida insurance companies continue to go out of business, and as the cost of insurance, obviously less people, less vendors in the market. I think USAA slowly starting to come back, but I think State Farm is leaving Florida. You hear it all the time. Just so many major players in the timeshare industry no longer writing policies in Florida or pricing homeowners out. Just making it to the point where I'm not paying $5,000 a year to insure my home. Especially when it was just $1,800 2 or 3 years ago. The Citizens, which is the government underwritten uh, company, is going to be one of the only ones left writing policies in Florida. Thankfully, it's not one that could technically go under since it's backed by the government itself. But when you have these staggering increases, it's going to impact resorts. I mentioned that one time that one person posted on TUG there. I can't remember the name of the resort for life of me. I want to say it was a Wyndham. Uh, that their insurance, just the line item went from what is a quarter million to over $1 million just in a single year, just for insurance. That is crazy, and I don't see how a resort, even a large resort, could absorb that out of the blue. I'm sure. I doubt that insurance company gave them a friendly reminder that it was going to go up, 500% or whatever it was. So when they got that bill, I bet their jaws hit the floor, and when they saw that, and more importantly, to have to because it's not like you can choose to not have insurance next year, especially at a resort. So to have to pass that line, I think they levied a special assessment because I don't think you can. I don't think in Florida allows you to increase dues by that much in a single year without a huge vote from the association, which you would never get. So I mean, I don't expect that to stop. It seems like the insurance industry is kind of fully on board with charging people. It's not something you can stop. And I tell people like air conditioning. I don't know why air conditioners in Florida aren't like $10,000. Who's going to not pay to have your air conditioner fixed? Who's going to not, especially in the dead of summer in Florida? You can't go without it, especially if you have a mortgage. You're not allowed to go without homeowners insurance. So, these cost increases are just hitting everyone, and timeshares are no different. Every single timeshare resort carries insurance for property insurance, and to see these rates go up, double in some cases, and if not triple, man, that's just gonna put resorts in a really ugly situation. It has nothing to do with all of these other maintenance fee line item increases that we've discussed for this year. Oh, I would love a $90 increase. Yeah, exactly. I mentioned it earlier. It's I think the $90. It sucks. I'm sorry that it went up at all. But there are a lot of people that would read that and happily trade with you. I can put you in touch with them if you would like to feel their pain a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that you got off lucky in terms of this year, but that is very much on the lower end, unless you're going to tell me your maintenance fees are only like $400 for the year. But with the average timeshare maintenance fees in the $1,200 range, $90 is, that's kind of in line with what I would expect to see this year, and certainly at the lower end. It's all your Marriotts. Yeah, that's one Wyndham. How much did your Wyndham go up this year? Uh, Got the payment email saying stop paying today, but no way to book yet. So far this season, no major storms have hit Florida. Knock on a big piece of wood. Absolutely. I'm here in Jacksonville. We had a number of them last year that kind of just tore the guts out of the Central Florida coast. Even one that went right through Orlando, and I don't think it was so much the storm and the wind damage, but the flooding was pretty severe. So I mean, I think you saw a lot of Orlando resorts, especially and even East Coast like Daytona and Fort Myers, or excuse me, Daytona and Ormond Beach areas that not usually high impact areas for hurricanes that saw some devastating flood damage from those hurricanes that just went right through the center of the state, and just kind of tore some of those resorts apart. So we see a lot of uh, you know those people have to pay for that on top of all of these other increases, and they'll probably see a much larger increase for their insurance, especially with the payouts. I don't know of very many resorts in Florida that don't have insurance for stuff like that. But the problem with, for those not aware, in Florida, you have a much higher deductible for a hurricane than you do for a regular claim. Like if a tree fell on your roof, or you had a fire in your house or something like that. Hurricane deductibles in Florida can be 6 to 10%. I don't know what the max is on there, but so your deductible of on a repair, let's call it $1 million. I mean, that's 6% of that. That's $60,000 that someone's got to pay for. It would be, that's a heck of a chunk of change to fix what you insured, that you thought was covered under insurance. So and if that insurance has to make a multi-$100 payout, they're certainly going to recover that money in some way, and that could be either dropping insurance, where you'll have to be forced to go to another vendor to shop that, and which almost always means a much higher rate, especially when you're shopping after a large claim, or you're stuck with Citizens, which would be an extreme increase there. So no, all Florida resorts are certainly feeling that. Yeah, absolutely, knock on wood that we haven't had any storms. It's been a very, very quiet year, and I hope that continues, as Florida could certainly use a break. That's for sure. Hmm. Within 3 miles of the coast is what I found. He said coastline, so I was just curious. I mean, I'm assuming, like you, that coast. I did before he mentioned that. I assumed coast was the ocean, versus. But that said, the one here locally, it's not a timeshare, but the condominium my friend lives in is on the water. It's on the Ortega River, but they are having to. They're subject to that as well. They're not nowhere near the coast. It's here in the west side of Jacksonville, but they are on the water, and so thus I thought uh, it would have applied to anything water. Maybe it's just waterfront or within 3 miles of the coast. Maybe that's it. It's because they're directly on the water. They have to they're subject to that, and then anything within 3 miles of the ocean, for lack of a better term. Certainly, I'm going to go look up. So now I'm interested. You guys have piqued my interest, and so now I want to know exactly which resorts fall into to this category. So my late Daytona resort lost its seawall. Yeah, that's that. The fact that the storms were so fast, and then the rain was so heavy that tore up the beaches really, really bad. And I think two of them last year kind of just went right through the similar areas, even though thankfully they were on the lower end strength wise when they wound up getting over there to the East Coast. It just did a whole lot of damage to the beach, and it's the one that just tore through what was the just south of Tampa and St. Pete, that just absolutely annihilated those resorts that existed there before it crossed over the entire state, and then just kind of cleaned up the other side of the state as well. It's really ugly last year, and again, I'm almost positive that many of those resorts are still making efforts to rebuild. So having a nice quiet hurricane season this year has been a blessing in disguise, and fingers crossed that it stays that way. So with the open sea and the line marking the seaward limit of inland. Oh my goodness, it's determined under the convention. Wow, that sounds. I bet a lawyer wrote that. Holy smokes! With the open sea and the line marking the seaward limit of inland water. All right. Well, interesting. I'll have to see what that translates to in English. So, all right. So, man, we talked about maintenance fees increases, and we talked about that. So, let's move on to another topic. Our last video that we produced talked about the terrible advice Exploria Resorts gave to its owners who reached out to them looking for help to exit an Exploria timeshare. This, for those of you that are not aware, those who didn't watch the video, please go watch the video. I would certainly appreciate that. Give it a thumbs up, like. We talked about, we had one individual contact us and told us that they had an Exploria timeshare. It's paid off. They paid off for a while. They reached out to Exploria for help in exiting. And Exploria basically said, we don't have an exit program, and sent them an email referring them to a trusted partner. And that was the language used, a trusted partner to help them sell their timeshare. Unfortunately, that trusted partner turned out to be an upfront fee resale company. And as most of you can expect, that individual wound up paying a upfront fee resale company their upfront fee because they trusted them, because they were a trusted partner, and their resort vouched for them and said that they could help them. And when you use the term like trusted partner, that seems pretty good recommendation, at face value. But that company charged them $499 to list their Explorer timeshare for $2,000 on their website, where it still sits today. Very, very frustrating to see a major developer refer people to an upfront fee exit company. You know, I would be shocked if Exploria wasn't aware that the company they referred to was an upfront fee resale company. I'd be shocked if there wasn't some sort of financial agreement between the two to become a trusted partner. Meaning, I don't think they would have TUG as a trusted partner if I didn't write them a big check. I'll just come around and say that, But for that to be the default answer from a resort, from an owner, they know full well their resort, at least that particular one, has no resale value. They know that hers is at Summer Bay. For those interested, they know that Summer Bay is sold for nothing or given away, and even that, in most cases, the owner has to uh, pay for closing costs. So to refer them to an upfront fee resale company that is going to collect a very, very large fee to list their timeshare at an unreasonable amount is tantamount to it's highway robbery. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. I hate it. I think Exploria, whatever executive at Exploria that chose this policy and drafted that email and engaged that relationship. I hope that they have bed bugs, or that their coffee is spoiled tomorrow, or something equally heinous. That I hope you have a bout of 48-hour diarrhea. It's just, you deserve everything you get karma wise, for actually referring owners who legitimately come to you for help. As they've been happy owners, they're just looking to get out of their timeshare. These people were in their 80s. They just couldn't go there anymore, and they wanted help getting out. And you deliberately drove them to a scammer. It was super frustrating. I hated to read that, and I believe they eventually listed their timeshare on TUG for free, and I think they had a couple interested parties, although I haven't heard back from them in a while, so I have to follow up on that. But after being told that, hey, you're not going to get $2,000 for that, no one's going to be interested in that, and I'm sorry that you were treated that way, and I'm sorry you lost another $500. But realistically, listing it for free and offering to pay closing costs, they could have taken that $500 and offered a $500 gift card and probably had it sold very, very quickly, or at least a new owner for it. Summer Bay is a nice resort for family in Orlando, but unfortunately, just doesn't have any resale value. So, I reached out to Exploria, and of course, didn't get any answer for that. I actually forwarded it to ARDA, to contacts at ARDA, and didn't really get an answer to that either. It's just kind of the nature of the industry. They just don't care. Their goal is to, uh, it's funny. I heard someone, what was it? Someone mentioned the other day they were touting Art of Rock, or something like that, which is how it champions owners or something like that, and trying to defend, trying to come up with some things that Art of Rock has done, that helps owners, or that feather in the cap for owners or something like that. And my answer to them was, if Art of Rock wanted to become the champion for owners, or wanted to take the cap of that, the fact that you have ignored the biggest issue that plagues owners, and that is upfront fee resale scams and upfront fee exit scams for decades. The fact that you've deliberately avoided that fight, you just don't have any legitimacy for me whatsoever. You guys could immediately bring yourselves into the forefront, and truly champion owners, and you literally have owners in your name, trying to pretend that that's where that seven or someone said didn't the Arna donations go up this year as well. Someone mentioned that they went from $5 or $7 to $10. So even the quote unquote voluntary but checked by default donation is suffering from increases as well, and now collecting even more money. So all those millions of dollars that they collect unsuspectingly from owners, that should be used to actually champion owners' issues. That was my comment. If they wanted, they could fix owners' issues in one night if they started championing against paying upfront fees. But they've deliberately stayed out of that fight and deliberately avoided any comment on that front for as long as I can remember. So, again, one more message: do not pay that, uncheck that box, or pay the less amount for your Auto Rock voluntary contribution in your maintenance fee statements. And go look at your maintenance fee statements and see if it's on there. Many people have just paid it by default for years, thinking it's just included as part of the line item, and they've done that deliberately. So if you see it on there, make sure it's unchecked. And if it's checked and you can't find a way to uncheck it, pay that amount less. So just if it's $1,500, then the $7 fee or $10 fee, pay $1,490, and deliberately do not pay that fee, because that money is going to lobby for the industry, not for you as an owner. HGV allows you to uncheck it. Yes, I've seen some that do allow you to uncheck it. There's a big argument of Vistana. The fact that it's checked by default is what gets me. If it is a voluntary political donation, yeah, I don't even think on the IRS, I'm almost positive in your tax return that you have to check that box. Would you like to donate to? I can't think of what it is. What is the political, the whatever fund for elections or something like that? You have to check it by default. That's the whole purpose, the whole meaning of voluntary. It's literally the definition of voluntary. The fact that it requires your input to opt out of it does not make it voluntary. That is the definition of mandatory, as far as I'm concerned. So I could spend all evening bitching about that. But yes, for those of you, please uncheck it. Please don't pay it. It's just not just really, really, really it grinds my gears. That's one of my big pet peeves. So yes, the Explorer video. Yes, please, man, if you're an Explorer owner, please don't take the advice that Explorer gives you. Please write Explorer and tell them how terrible they are for using a quote unquote trusted partner that is an upfront fee resale company that is not in the business of selling timeshares versus collecting upfront fees. And if they truly want to give their owners some help in getting out of their Exploria timeshares or exiting their Exploria timeshares, if they don't want to provide any legitimate option for their owners to exit, at least they could send them to TUG or the TUG website for information on how to legitimately get rid of their timeshare or offer it up for free to actually have a chance of finding a new home for their timeshare. And go watch the video. It's awesome. And I hope more Explorer owners find that in time, not to waste another $500. So, which brings us into more options. There's a recent thread that we discussed in our last newsletter. A proposed Ontario law that was going to require timeshare companies to provide an exit solution for their owners. Now, it was really short on details. I admittedly I probably wouldn't have agreed with something so broad, for lack of a better term. So I agree with the idea that there should be an exit solution for all owners. Meaning, I don't care if it's a crappy solution or an unappealing solution. There should be a solution. Every resort should provide an exit option, a legitimate exit option that allows an owner to exit an unwanted timeshare. Now, there could be stipulations on that. Obviously, owners that are behind in their dues, or owners that are still owe on a loan, obviously wouldn't qualify for that until they satisfied both those things. But there's so many owners out there. There's so many systems that the owner legitimately has no option other than to default. Giving it back to the resort, not really an option in many people's cases. Deed back programs do exist, but they're getting fewer. I feel like we're taking a step back. There's so many systems that tout deed back programs or touted deed back programs in the past. They've either just cut back so much they're extremely limited, or they've adopted the upfront fee model where they're charging thousands of dollars to give it back. And I'm not so much against that. I don't really mind. Obviously, it sucks, but it's an option. You can choose versus paying an exit company to roundabout default. You can choose to pay your resort to be out of your timeshare. And if that is the only option they provide, that is at least an option. Meaning that if some resort wants to implement a model where it's a percentage of your maintenance fees or an annual multiplier of your maintenance fees or something, it is not free to give back a timeshare. To transfer a deed, there is an actual tangible cost in that. And it's, hundreds of dollars at the minimum to transfer deeded ownership from one party to another. Whether they charge you that exact cost, whether they enter in an engagement with a third party closing company to pad that cost and just say it costs $1,000 and charge you $1,000 to be out of it, or more in line of it, which is, hey, you just pay your next year's maintenance fees, so that gives us the a year's worth of leeway to do something with your timeshare, whether to find a new owner or offer a rental pool or something like that. These are legitimate options. Now, obviously, every resort's different, and so when I come up with a carte blanche solution that sounds good, obviously that there are plenty of resorts where that just isn't feasible. But the fact that there are so many that have no options, meaning your only solution as an owner is to default or be scammed. And those are just two really, really crappy options that should not they shouldn't be the only ones. It's just terrible that resorts in this day and age are still forcing people to make that decision, or are still relying on the hey, we're going to turn you over to collections, or we're going to sue you if you don't pay your maintenance fees. That fear of a credit ding, or a judgment or something like that, instead of working towards a solution that actually provides a legitimate way for these owners to get out. The resorts aren't blind. They are fully aware that their timeshare is difficult to sell or even give away on the resale market. They're fully aware that upfront fee exit and resale companies prey on the owners of these timeshares because they have limited options. So for them to go for years without any sort of useful solution or anything to help these owners, give them something, give them a lifeline, even if it's a poor one. These owners are willing to pay thousands of dollars to a company to help them get out. Having someone pay 5 times maintenance fees to a resort, if you can't do something with that timeshare in 5 years, there are bigger problems going on, and they're certainly not the fault of the owner. Back to the original thing: should there be a law forcing companies to provide an exit solution for owners? Now, I personally am in line that a law shouldn't need to exist for companies to provide an exit option to owners, meaning companies should provide this on their own, and many of them do. I'll give Wyndham kudos that they're the only ones that I can think of that have a carte blanche surrender program. And it doesn't cost anything; it's free. As long as it's paid off, you can give it back. And they're the only ones that come to mind that offer that. Obviously, if you have a timeshare that has value, then any system is likely to take it back from you. But Wyndham will take back the junk weeks just like they take back the valuable weeks. As long as it's paid off and you're not delinquent. I'm not saying that every system should adopt that model. It would be nice in a fantasy world. That'd be great. But that's not reasonable to expect that. Whereas you look on the other side and you look at Holiday Inn, which used to be free. Just a couple years ago, the Holiday Inn surrender program was free, and now it's up to what, $1,500, $1,750. So now they've monetized that. And Diamond Resorts, where I think they're up to 1,000 or 1,250 per ownership, and that's if you didn't buy resale, which still baffles me why they wouldn't let resale owners pay to give back. It's just again going off on a tangent there. But the systems like Blue Green, which tout an exit program, especially on the ARDA website, which really don't have an exit program. They'll obviously, if you call them and you have a very high value week, high number of points, or a legacy value deeded week, they're happy to take. Excuse me, they're happy to take that back. But for the average Blue Green owner, you're sent kind of a similar message that you got from Exploria. Hey, sorry, we don't have an exit program at this time, or we can't take your week back at this time, but here's our trusted partner Pinnacle, and you can go sell your timeshare there. And obviously that's a little better than Exploria because unlike their trusted partner, which is an upfront fee resale company, at least Pinnacle is a legitimate resale outlet for Blue Green points. And it also allows the resale buyer to retain the developer benefits if you buy through Pinnacle. Obviously, there's an added fee involved in there, and it's a higher cost. But unfortunately, a person with a low end Blue Green points ownership, Pinnacle isn't going to help them sell it either. There's not really a high demand for that stuff out there. So, in essence, while Blue Green touts an exit program, it doesn't really exist. What was the other Welk before they got to, even now Welk, now that it's, even though it's called Hilton now because Hilton bought it, touted an exit program, and Welk owners can't give anything back. There was a while they were taking back platinum points, but none of the other ones. But now they're not taking back anything. Even a Welk platinum owner can contact uh, there and not give that back. So if a company is still selling points, I don't understand why they wouldn't take free points. I'm 100% with you. It baffles me. Diamond is just a great example. I don't understand why Diamond wouldn't take back every single point ownership, again, assuming it's paid off and not delinquent in the fees, which are all valid reasons to deny a deed back. But uh, I'm baffled at why resorts won't take back points, especially that you're still in active sales. You're it's not like you have to struggle to find a home for these things. It's just points. It's vaporware. It's uh, another one that shocked me. There was a lady on TUG who couldn't give away her Alara timeshare. Couldn't give it back. I couldn't. I was absolutely. I mean, it was a gold week, but why would Hilton not take something like that back? It's like Alara. It's Vegas. It's points, and you have an office you probably have an office in that resort where you're selling point. I'm baffled. I don't understand the mechanism uh, behind the scenes for some of these resorts' inactive sales that that would reject something like that. Again, that was another one I forwarded to a contact at Hilton, and he was kind of scratching his head at that one as well. He was just shocked to hear it. So maybe it was just a glitch in the system, and maybe they eventually gave. Although I think someone actually took it off the tug boards. They were offering it for free. So but no, there's no reason whatsoever for a resort in active sales, especially points, to not take something back carte blanche. And maybe you could make the argument that there's some sort of administration fee, or there's a tangible fee for just taking back the ownership, where you could charge a couple $100 or a year's maintenance fees. If it was a year's maintenance fees, I don't think very many owners would balk at that, especially if their goal was to get out of their timeshare. Or even say if it's the beginning of the year, you've already paid your maintenance fees, we'll take it back. But if it's now past July and you want to give it back, you need to pay the next year's maintenance fees as a deed back fee. I don't think many owners would be against that, and I've never heard a valid reason why a resort would not accept that offer, or has some sort of policy that prevents that from happening. They have a lot of inventory left. They have to contribute the maintenance fees for what they hold. You're true, but again, if the person's at a risk of default or doesn't want to pay anymore, that's got to be such a small amount. At least I would think. Again, maybe I'm just making stuff up. I'm curious to know what. I'd have to go look at the financials for Diamond to see what the percentage of developer owned points are for Diamond. I can't imagine that's ever zero. Meaning they're always going to have some unowned inventory that they're responsible for maintenance fees for, and I'm sure they have a percentage. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe for those point systems, they have a set percentage number, and if it's below that number, then they start accepting. They'll take stuff back, and if it goes above that number, then they immediately shut it down and won't accept anything. And obviously, that's silly to us as owners. But I guess that could kind of make sense in terms of you obviously there's not someone at Hilton who's rubber stamping or has a yes and a no stamp on their desk going through every deed back. So I have to imagine that when someone calls and submits or asks that they type it in and get an answer right away. So something behind the scenes is making that decision whether it's a yes or no on those things. But again, I agree with Jeremy. I just don't see why a resort in active sales would ever legitimately refuse a deed back, even if there was a monetary value. Even if they had to charge a monetary value, whether it's a multiplication, multiple of the maintenance fees or an admin fee or something, to take that back, just to put back in the points pool is baffling to me. And it shouldn't. The problem should not exist. You can make the claim that an independent resort shouldn't be taking back carte blanche stuff, and or that they risk of going under, but not for a major resort system in active sales. It's just extremely frustrating when we hear that from owners, that you have a week that in a points program it's paid off, they try to give it back and they were told no. Well, Diamond charges $1,000 anyway. It's probably close to a year. Yeah, you're right. I mean, they've charged that forever, but they exclude resale buyers, and I don't know why. I don't know why. A resale buyer can't give their. I mean, it's just it's baffling to me that there's not even a consideration. If you bought resale, you do not qualify for unless you live in Arizona. I think Arizona was their attorney general sued Diamond or came to agreement with Diamond over the given deed back. So any Arizona resident should be able to give their, and I think it's $250, meaning I think you get a huge discount on that $1,000 or $1,250 fee that they charge if you live in Arizona. To give that back to Diamond, and resale buyers, I believe, can do that as well. Why that's just Arizona? Again, it's just more of those head scratching things. Diamond is still in active sales, and so there's just no reason why someone who owns a paid off Diamond resort can't just contact them and give it back, pay the $1,250, even if they're about resale, to surrender that back and give it back to them. Large was a huge influx of inventory. There's some 1,200 units. Yeah, I don't know. Was it from exit companies? Was it from defaults? It's the first I've heard of that. I mean, it's a giant, you know, flagship. I mean, it's a flagship Westgate resort until Hilton took it over. Beautiful resort right on the strip. I'm sure that every single room is booked out for the Formula One. I saw. It's funny you mentioned that. I got an email. I'm not an Alara owner, I'm not even a Hilton owner, but I got an email from Hilton talking about offering the Formula One race. Like you could rent a room at Alara, and I guess they have some balconies or maybe the terrace or something at the resort set up, because I guess it borders the boulevard where the cars are just going to come right by. And just for one ticket for the F1 race to Terrace, not even stay in a room, was $5,000. Yeah, man, that's the Vegas is one of a kind, and I'm pretty amazed that. Oh, when they took over from Westgate. Well, yeah, that Westgate, you know, kind of. I don't really know the whole deal behind that. I mean, Westgate spent so much money on that resort, and then just couldn't make it work. I don't know if it was just a overextended or a bad time when that resort was coming to fruition with the economy and such. But uh, I'm pretty sure there are still Westgate owners that still own there, and they never got they don't become Hilton owners, or there was just some weird stuff about that. I don't know if that's been sorted out, but yeah, it was interesting where it was just kind of a mixed resort, even though it no longer had the Westgate name on it. There were still Westgate owners, obviously, because they sold a lot of ownerships before Hilton took it over, and just it is kind of a special place. But they are now; they're just not Hilton Grand Vacation Club owners. Yeah. But it's still, coming back to the main point. The lady owned, was trying to give back her Gold Week at Alara. I mean, I just didn't see any legitimate reason why Hilton wouldn't take that back, because it was a points resort. It wasn't a fixed or a deeded week. I mean, it was a legitimate points resort. There's Hilton, just should have no problem taking something like that back. And it was just another one of those situations where Hilton advertises an exit program, and uh, doesn't always, you advertise an exit program, you should at least give the people an option, even if it's an unpalatable one. Even if they charged her, well, yeah, we'll take it back, but you need to pay 10 years worth of your maintenance fees. Yeah, that's a stupid and ridiculous number that I'm coming up with. But you give the owner the ability to reject that, the giving them the answer of, you got nothing, we're not taking it back. Best of luck. To you on your Google search on how to get rid of your timeshare. That's the absolute worst answer you can give to a timeshare owner. But unfortunately, it's the one that I would say the average timeshare owner gets these days, and it's just really really crappy situation. Nose is itching. So covered the TUG 30th birthday, covered Exploria, covered law for exit deedbacks, covered the maintenance fee increases for Florida resorts with the law passes. Last thing to cover is, for those of you who didn't see, we now have a new forum on TUG for cruising. We've always had a thread in the lounge for TUG cruises. TUG cruises used to be a really big thing before COVID. A lot of people would get together and go on the same cruise ship. All TUG members they were wild and crazy kids. Did some pretty amazing stuff. And now been a long time people had asked for it, but we now have a new forum called Tugboats, where you can just talk about cruising on TUG. I know there are plenty of forums out there for cruise specific information, Cruise Critic and such, but nothing's like TUG. Come on, let's just admit it. So for those of you who like time sharing and who like cruising, check out the Tugboats forum. You can talk about anything cruise related, and hopefully you guys enjoy that new forum for owners. It's right under the vacation travel section, for those of you who go on the forums. And I hope it turns out to be a wonderful place for all TUG members to share information and advice about cruising, just like you do for timeshares. I was the agent that booked those cruises. Yes, and that you got mentioned a couple times where you were booking all those cruises for those people. That was a truly unique thing. I mean, I say that's unique. I'm sure there are plenty of forums out there that organize cruises, but the fact that you had so many vacation travelers all book the same cruise, and to go on that is almost an annual thing. So I kind of hope that picks back up again, now that the world vacation, the world is kind of returning to normal vacation wise, and your cruising is not at risk like it was a couple years ago when things didn't look like they were, cruise industry didn't look like it was going to survive. Nope. We hope that Tugboats turns into for cruises what TUG has become for timeshares. At the very least, anyone who enjoys cruise information or wants cruise information from their fellow Tuggers, who are unlike any other in terms of community, you now have your own forum to chit chat about cruises. No, Fern was alive. That's it. Yeah, that predates me. Although I do, Fern was still alive when I took over from my father. But all of that stuff going back again. It's hard to believe that stuff goes back 25, 30 years. And I will say that is one very something I wasn't prepared for. And being part of this community, and obviously I wasn't here at the beginning when my father started in the 90s, but being here for what, 15, 16 years now of doing this, the relationships I've made with people, and to see, obviously death, happens to us all, and but to see so many people who are so active in the community for so long and so well loved in the community, and just kind of vocal. You never meet I never meet the people in person, but someone you interact with on almost regular basis, and it kind of it hits you when they pass, and then you generally don't find out something like that unless a relative will come on, or someone that did know them personally, or we're friends on Facebook or something like that comes back and shares that information. It just kind of the way it is. It's not something I ever expected to experience so many loved members of the community passing. And then I guess when you look at uh, a community that has been in existence for 30 years and will be here for probably another 30 until I pass on. We'll just kind of see more and more of that. It's very, very, very morbid thought, but it is part of life, and we certainly celebrate everyone who makes this community what it is, and especially the people that came before us that truly were, fundamental in shaping TUG to be what it is today. They will certainly be missed and always remembered. It's pretty crazy. You just say the name Fern, and pretty much anyone who's been around TUG for that long knows exactly who you're talking about without even having to mention her last name. Well, on that, that ends all my topics. So we still got a few people online. We can do the Q&A section now, although we've been doing that most of this time. So if anyone waiting still left talking, I'm going to take a sip here while I read your chat or type because I'm super thirsty. Oh my goodness. And so if anyone has any questions, I will be happy to answer anything and everything. Nothing's off limits, I guess, assuming it's timeshare related. So for any of you who are still stayed on this long and wish to ask questions, did your dad have to convince you to take over Tug? Man, that's a really good question, Jeremy. It's funny. I Again, as I mentioned before, I didn't really know what my dad did. I didn't know what Tug was. I remember when I was in high school, I used to help him. This is back in the day with stuff envelopes. We used to send stuff out via regular mail, like flyers and stuff like that. Uh, did help him update some web pages. I remember helping the checks. Man, that's such all the everybody paid by check. Because again, just PayPal didn't exist back then, and I remember opening envelopes and marking memberships and stuff like that. But I never really knew what he was doing. It's just I'm a kid and I'm just sitting at the kitchen table, opening envelopes and putting a $15 check here and a $30 check there, and it was. I actually remember the credit card thing too, because this is back in the day when you had to run the carbon copy thing, and I'm just dating myself at this point. But I went off to college and I went to work for America Online, and I worked as a Microsoft consultant for the longest time, and I was gone. I traveled for the majority of my professional life. And my father never really offered, I guess I don't know if he was, looking to exit because, he never took a vacation for, 15 years. And you're running Tug. It was kind of a daily thing. And when he would go on vacation, it's funny, he would actually take the desktop that had all the Tug stuff on it and take it with him to the timeshare resort and put it on remember we go on vacation, we have the desktop computer and the dining room table at the timeshare plugged in and dialed up on the internet so that he could run stuff while he was on vacation. But uh, it came to I don't remember, we were having a conversation one time, and I mentioned how I was kind of getting sick of traveling because as a Microsoft consultant, I traveled 45 weeks a year. This is pre 9/11, so it wasn't travel wasn't terrible as bad as it is now. But I was getting burnt out, and I mentioned I didn't really know if I want to do that forever, and he just kind of he never thought that I wanted to quit. I was very happy with my job. I loved being what I did for Microsoft, and I loved going to different companies and fixing a particular piece of software that I got very, very good at. And he never thought I wanted to quit. So he never asked. He never approached me about it. And it wasn't until I was home one day and we were just talking over dinner or something. And he mentioned that he wanted to he was considering retiring or considering trying to find someone to take over, and it just kind of spawned into a conversation that, I was, man, I kind of want to stop traveling, and you kind of want to stop, hand over to Tug, show me what it entails, because at that time I didn't even know, I didn't know what he did on a daily basis, so it kind of spawned one of the most memorable things for me is I spent, I wound up setting a time, speaking, and setting a time to that I was going to officially retire from consulting, and then I spent almost a year next to my father every day, learning what Tug was. I would did we would sit next to each other. He would answer the phones, and I would listen. And I just, guys, I mean, I wasn't a timeshare expert at the time. I knew roundabout what it was, but to learn the day-to-day stuff and just to sit next to him, every morning, it was just one of the most memorable things. It's just some of the most personal and memorable times I've ever had is working, day to day, shoulder to shoulder with my father. And it came to a point where he didn't need to be there anymore. I was able to function and answer the questions and answer the phones and learn the industry. And and then there were days when he wouldn't even come into the room at all, and it just kind of more from there, and he was finally comfortable enough, and I was comfortable enough that he was able to step aside completely, and now he's been completely out of the loop for many years, and spends all his Marriott points on vacation. He lives in the villages now, and takes tons of cruises and tons of vacations. He basically they enjoy bouncing from Wyndham Resort to Marriott Resort all over the coast. So coming from Orlando makes it an easy drive. I go to Hawaii a lot, something he was never able to do with Tug, just with that super long flight. I mean, I think they spent a month in Hawaii earlier this year. And he was fun to FaceTime me from the beach in Hawaii, asking me how. Thanks, Dad. I still remember that. Thank you. Yeah, that was awesome. But yeah, no, it wasn't a whole lot of convincing. I think it was just one of those things where I never asked because I thought it was something that he wanted to do forever, and he ever asked because he thought I was happy with my job, which I was, but he never thought that I would give up what I did to take over Tuck. I think deep down he wanted. He was very, very happy, especially when we talked about it. He's like, "This is amazing. I would love to hand it over to you," but it just never came up, and it just in passing that one time, and that's what started where we are at all. Uh, Hard to pack a desktop to take to Hawaii. Yeah, I imagine you can use laptops now. I mean, I used a terminal server now, so I can just connect, and I don't need to. I can just take my laptop with me. But that technology didn't exist in the '90s and early 2000s, so it was pretty funny. My mom even remembers that when I was gone, because you just physically just pick up a desktop and put it in a big suitcase and carry it on wherever they went on vacation. So it's an amusing story there. Thank you for the advice. I've learned a lot. Great chat. Thank you very much for chiming in, Timon or Timon. Again, if I'm butchering your name, I apologize. I'm very, very humbled that you stayed here this entire time. Thank you so much. Tune in anytime, and I'm glad I could answer some questions and provide you some information and knowledge during this time. That's exactly what I was thinking. Destination time. Yeah, hard to. I agree. I mean, I vaguely remember it, but again, I was real little when doing stuff like that, and I guess uh, it was certainly challenging. But I can understand. I admit that now it's difficult it's much easier for me to go on vacation because again, I can just take a laptop and I can terminal back in and do all the work I need to do. It doesn't matter where I am as long as I have internet. But I find similar. I can understand his way of thinking because when you're here and working, yeah, I can technically just turn this off and get up and go spend time with my kids. But all of the work or I could take a day off if I wanted to, but all of that work it'd just be there tomorrow. I got all the same emails to answer. I've got all the stuff to do on a daily basis. None of it is urgent. None of I'm not giving life saving medicine advice or anything here. So emails will wait. But anytime I take a vacation or take a day off or decide not to work that day so I can go out fishing with my son or something like that, there's just twice as much work left to do later on that night or the next day. So I get the you kind of get grounded, you kind of get stuck, and you still in the nagging in the back of your head is, hey, while I'm off doing this, I'm got all this work just continuing to pile up, and these emails continue to pile up. I've recently taken a work call on a flight via Wi-Fi. Wow, that's that's bold. I will say that it has become more and more common. I mentioned my wife works for Brightway. Almost all of their staff work remotely. COVID just kind of scattered everyone to the winds and made the world realize that people can work from home just as effective as they can work in an office. Some of them, anyway. I will admit that there are challenges that companies like that have with employees that working from home. Obviously, it is manageable, but yeah, I noticed that when I call. I had a phone call the other day. I don't remember who I was calling about a bill or something like that, and I could clearly tell that the person that answered the phone was working from home. I could hear the kids in the background. I could hear almost like they were at their kitchen table because I could hear cabinets opening and closing. And I mean, it's just the way of the world today. Remote working is it's the norm. And it was kind of uh, you know, I don't expect that to change. I think everyone, when they sent everyone home to do the inbound calling for the insurance company, I think everyone expected them to come back eventually. But after they realized that they don't have to have this giant call center, to have 300 people come to work every day and sit in cubicles, that that it's cheaper to kind of deal with that percentage of employees who really who really shouldn't work from home, or just don't actually do the work from home, versus the ones that are happy to be just as productive in their PJs. They're probably not live chatting with people, so you can sit in your living room chair and on your laptop and answer the phone all day long in the comfort of your own home, versus having to go to the office. And I even told my wife, that's she does the back end scheduling, routing, uh, the calls and stuff like that for Brightway. But if they ever told her she had to go back to the office, she would be willing to take a pay cut, just because you've gotten so comfortable now of not wasting an hour of your day each way in a commute, not wasting gas, not wasting wear and tear on your vehicle, not sitting in traffic, not having to go to lunch for an hour every day and driving to that to and forth. It's just so much more convenient to work from home, and you would be willing to take less money to do it, just because you're that convenience. So love the commute with working from home. Absolutely. No traffic in the hallway. I tell my friends that all the time when they complain about sitting in traffic, for those that do still have to go to work. But yeah, no, I get to work from home. I've done that for a while now. I traveling for work, I don't miss travel at all. You travel that much. I remember telling people the one story. There was one gig where I worked for Dole Foods, or Dole Fresh Vegetables, actually in Salinas, California. And for the first 6 months of the year, I traveled between Jacksonville and San Francisco every single week. I would fly out Sunday night on the red hours. I would fly out Sunday, and land super early in the morning, Monday morning, and I would take the red eye Thursday night back to Jacksonville. And I did that for 6 straight months, every single week, flying back and forth. I was platinum medallion on Delta within like 2 months. But that, just stuff like that. I mean, I enjoyed the job. I just hated the travel. It's just a lot. You're living out of a suitcase, and you basically have enough time to come home and wash your clothes, pay your bills, see a few people, and then you're back at the airport on Sunday. Yeah, I don't miss travel at all, even though I've been doing this for going on 15 years now. I just do not miss it. We recently took a family trip to upstate New York, where we flew with my wife and two kids, and the trip there was fine, and the trip back was just biblical. And how I could not write a bigger nightmare. Catching COVID was the highlight of that trip, if that gives you any insight into how miserable that return trip was. So actually legitimately got COVID, and multiple people got COVID on that trip. And that was the highlight of our return trip. So yeah, that was just, well, no longer, just don't travel with in-laws. It's just, no, just don't do that. So I'm not, and that's just, I don't, I just want to blank that memory out. But yeah, my kids love to, they love to travel. So thankfully we're close to Orlando. We took them to Disney. Uh, Took them to Disney earlier this year. Yeah, February, March. We took, and they had a blast. It was awesome. Stayed in my first DVC resort. Not sure I'll do that again, but it was cool for the kids. Super convenient to be able to walk in and out or take the monorail. But uh, yeah, we have so much to do for kids wise in Florida. It's just not at this point taking long travel trips like that. Eventually, they'll probably want to learn how to ski, so I'll have to take them somewhere to do things like that. But yeah, my travel at this point, I think we're pretty much limited to driving distance, especially after that trip to upstate New York. Beautiful place to visit. Yeah, I think me and my wife are pretty much over air travel after that nightmare. We got 2 million lifetime miles on American Airlines. Hey, that's I still got the million mile tag on my luggage from Delta. So, and I'm pretty sure I earned a big chunk of that on that 6 months, every single week from back and forth from San Francisco uh, to Jacksonville. That was quite the trip. I always thought I'd like to travel for business until my work had me go back to Ohio in January. No thanks. I was very blessed. At the end of my career, I pretty much stayed in the South. That one California contract, but mostly Texas. A lot of big companies in Texas do have contracts with Microsoft. A lot of the oil companies, a lot of the DR Horton. I remember one specifically, the big builder there. But yeah, there were a couple trips I had to go. Detroit, Not in the winter. I'm not a winter person, and I don't think I've ever been colder than there on the Great Lakes in the middle of winter, and I have no desire to visit that ever again. Just yeah, I just avoid the north. Snow and I don't get along. Cold weather and I don't get along, and so if I have to travel again, I'm sure my kids will want to see snow, and I don't mind doing something like that for them. But yeah, having to commute and or uh, travel in snow, just not for me. And those are some very very unpleasurable memories for me back in that day. So, but there are also some really really good ones. So I know I don't regret traveling for work, but no desire to. And it's funny, everybody said, man, you're so lucky. You get to go to different cities all the time. You get to fly everywhere. Man, the inside of a hotel room looks the same in San Francisco as it does in Jacksonville. Hotel, it's, uh, Hampton Inn Express or Marriott Courtyard in Detroit looks identical to the one in Memphis. You pretty much traveling for work. You go from the workplace to, especially when we work 10-hour days, the 410s, so you could fly home on a Thursday night versus a Friday. That is a travel tip for people. Thursday nights are way better for travel than Friday nights are. In case that was not common knowledge. But yeah, the inside of a hotel room, you pretty much at the workplace, and then you pick up some fast food and eat it and fall asleep, and you wake up and go back the next day. So, travel for work is great, but it does not. It's not like I'm out able to see the sights in most of those situations. So, I'm Canadian living in Texas. I can handle the snow, but generally don't have to. Uh, yeah, I'm born and raised in Florida, and I don't like driving in snow. I don't like falling on my butt in ice. Just I'm not a good skier, so I mean that would be one appeal for being a snow person. But just to finalize, I mean I don't like stupid hot heat either. Like that's not comfortable either. I do love my air conditioning, but give me a nice summer day on a boat on the water somewhere where I can jump in a pool or jump in the water. I'd way more than having to peel off 20 layers coming back in from the snow and sit next to a fire so I can feel my toes again. Just two different extremes, but so for me, I'll take the heat over the cold any day. Hmm. Any other questions or comments? 2 hours, man! I can't believe y'all stuck with me. Thank you so much. Again, I'm humbled that both I was able to fill 2 hours of time with hopefully a couple tidbits of useful information on time sharing. But I certainly appreciate going back and forth and answering questions and talking to y'all. It's I can talk about timeshares forever. So, but if there are no other questions, again, I'll tell you again, thank you so much. I'll let you guys know when we have the next talking timeshares. Sunday nights at 8:30 seem to be great. Thank you very much for tuning in. I know it's super late. We're going on 10:30 here, 11:30 technically with the time change. So. Thank you all for sticking up late with me. And Clara, thank you so much for chiming in. I'm going to keep track of this, and I'm going to pick a couple random people. I think many of y'all have already won previous memberships. So I'm gonna see if we can find. So I think Timon, did I give you? I'll have to go back and look. I'll keep track of this, and I'll see if I can give out some remaining free memberships for those of y'all who chimed in and participated in this. So again, I appreciate it. Thank you all so much for chiming in. This episode of I'd like one. Timon, did I give you one? Send me an email at tug@tug2.net. Could you, Timon and Timon, maybe it's Simon with a T. Shoot me an email, Jim. Florida this thanks again, Florida this Friday. Hey, I hope you have a wonderful vacation. I tell you right now that you have picked a wonderful time to come to Florida. The weather right now is absolutely amazing. We're lucky to hit 80 degrees. It is sunny. It's beautiful. There's no rain. It is these last couple weeks. Of course, you're going to show up on Friday, and it's probably just going to be miserable and rainy. I won't put that karma on you. I'm sorry, but yes, the weather right now is absolutely staggering. And if I could pick, this feels like San Diego in Florida. And for those of y'all who've been, it's just so pleasant, nice breeze, not a cloud in the sky. It's the weather here has been glorious. So I hope you have the same for when you get here on Friday, Jim. And I hope you have a wonderful vacation. So thank you all again for tuning in, and you guys have a wonderful evening. And thank you so much for tuning in. And I keep saying that. So I got to stop saying that. But thank you enough, and I'll let you guys know. And you guys have a wonderful evening. Good night.